Hi, everybody. I'm Danielle Rogers, creator of Warrior Women Portraits, and today we are sitting and interviewing the amazing warrior Kiki. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me, Danielle.
Absolutely. Well, we always start off each of the interviews with kind of describing your journey, your cancer journey, how you found your tumor, what your diagnosis was, and kind of what your treatment plan was. And I feel like, yeah, we'll just go from there and I'll ask any questions that I might have. And so take it away, my dear.
Okay, I actually found my lump in May of 2019, and I did not pay much attention to it, only because since I was a child, during that time of the month, I would get like cysts and bumps in my breast or underneath my armpit. So that's really what I thought it was. I didn't think it was anything different. So, um, a few months later, I noticed that it hadn't gone away and it was starting to hurt a little bit. And my husband seemed more concerned than I was. And I'm like, if you want me to waste the $25 on a copay to go to the doctor for them to tell me what I already know,
Right.
um, I will do that for you. And I schedule an appointment for the doctor. And, when they feeling around, they're like, we're just going to send you for a mammogram. We're sure that it's nothing, but yeah. And I still wasn't concerned until I actually went for the mammogram.
Was that your first mammogram ever?
This was my first mammogram. I was 34 years old. So,
Oh,
typically the age
yeah.
is not until like 40, right? So
Right. Yeah.
everything that they were doing, we did a regular mammogram. So I'm like, okay. Then they're like, okay, we have to do a 3D mammogram because you have dense breast. So, and I'm like, okay, I'm just so nonchalant about everything. And I'm thinking that this is normal.
Right.
Um, then they told me to get dressed and they brought me in the back and they're like, well, the doctor will be in to talk to you. And I'm like, whose doctor? Because my doctor is not here. Like I was very confused, but I thought that this was a normal part of the process. And the radiologist came in, looked at the images, and he just looked at me and he was like, I'm about 99% positive this is some form of cancer. And he probably said a million other things after that, but that's all I heard in that moment. And I'm like, is this for real?
Yeah.
Like, is this really happening? I'm too young for this.
Absolutely.
I didn't have any questions because I was just so taken aback by what he was saying. And then it really hit me because now I'm in the car and I'm like, I have to drive home. And what do I tell my family?
Yeah.
Do I
Was your
wait
was your
until
husband with you or was it just you in that appointment?
No, I was by myself because I didn't think that I needed to have anyone with me.
Right, right.
It's just, I'm just thinking that it's just standard protocol. They're going to find the cyst or, whatever it was, and it will be nothing. Like I said, my whole life I had been like that.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay. And so once they had the diagnosis, what kind of treatment plan did they kind of put you on?
So I found out October 1st, 2019, and they called me back from the biopsy results that I had invasive ductal carcinoma,
Okay.
which is an aggressive form of cancer, and it's starting to spread out. And so the form of treatment was do the bilateral mastectomy. First of all, let me take a step back.
Hmm.
My sister, my older sister, also had breast cancer at the same time. So we
Okay.
thought it was important to do genetic testing. My
Absolutely.
sister had triple negative. I
Okay.
did not. And I have a gene, she does not. And it's not BRCA1 or BRCA2, which is
The
the most
normal.
common ones that we hear about.
Yeah.
So mine's was in my ATM RNA. It didn't even show up in the regular DNA part when
Wow.
yeah, it was like bizarre. So I do have a genetic mutation.
Okay.
And so once we found that out, I opted for a bilateral mastectomy. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't have much to begin with, so it really
What did you ever consider reconstructing, or was that something that you were just like, no, I don't care. I used to didn't I don't have much and I might as well just not have anything.
So the thing with that is I feel like, and I don't even think that doctors realize this is what they do. They play on your age and your emotions, whether it's whether they're doing it out of concern or what they feel may be best. So because I was 34 and they were like, well, you're young, you're married, let's go ahead and do the implants, so you'll still look like a young, vivacious woman.
Yeah.
And me not knowing any better. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that sounds good. I'll finally be able to jiggle a little bit.
I love it. Yeah, right.
So
You got to take the
we
positives where we can, right?
right. So in my head, I'm like, yes, I'm finally gonna be like a C cup. So we do the implants and we do the tissue expanders. And in about 2 months, I wound up having to go to the hospital. I had just a slight fever, nothing else. And they did blood work, and it turned out that I was developing sepsis
Okay.
from the tissue expanders. So we had to take those out. So now I already had the surgery to take,
Yeah.
everything out, surgery to put the tissue expanders in. Now I'm having another surgery to take the tissue expanders out.
So they did the
Then they,
expanders after, like in a separate surgery. They didn't do it during the mastectomy.
correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So once they took the tissue expanders out, they just went ahead and put the implants in at that time.
Wow.
Um,
That's actually
yeah,
shocking if they thought you were
yeah.
sepsis. Like,
Yeah, I
okay.
mean, like
Okay.
I was in the hospital for about 2 weeks. So
Wow.
after everything cleared up, they wind up putting the implants in. And 2 months later, I developed sepsis again from the implants.
Yeah.
This time I did have some signs like I was getting lymphatic massages,
Mhm.
and my therapist, she felt my chest and she was like, this feels really, really warm. She's like, I don't want to work on you. She's like, I feel like you need to call your doctor. And the crazy thing is, I didn't feel sick or
Yeah.
anything. Um, Once again, did the blood work, sepsis again. So here we are, another emergency
Yeah.
surgery to now take those out. So it wasn't until this final surgery that I'm like, okay, well, what else can we do? Because I don't want to do this again, because clearly my body does not like foreign things in it.
Right.
And it was like, we can take skin and fat from like your thighs and your stomach, what they call a deep flap. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that either. Um, Especially when you talk about, like a 14-week healing time. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I had
Your
went back
kid.
to work
Yeah.
to come back out of work, to go back to work, to come back out of work. It was just this back and forth. And I just didn't like any of the options that they were giving me. And then
Right.
they finally said, well, you don't have to do anything. And then it was like a aha moment.
Hmm.
Like, well, why wasn't I given that option in the beginning?
Right.
I feel like you're not given all of your options
Yeah.
because I might have just done that to begin with,
Right.
instead of putting my body through so
Multiple.
much. I mean,
Right.
I have a lot of scar tissues and scars, for no reason.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard on your body and it's hard on
Yeah,
your mental state too, of just like, here we go again. Like,
right,
and, well, I'm really sorry that you didn't get all of your choices. It really bothers me when I hear that, because regardless of going flat is not your choice, or if it is your choice, like just give us the options, right?
right,
So we
right,
can make an educated decision based on all the options.
right.
So,
I mean, they don't tell you about, breast implant illness that many women suffer from,
Right.
because it's something foreign. And,
Hmm.
I wasn't educated on any of these things
Yeah.
or signs and symptoms to look for. I mean, my God, if I hadn't gone to, my therapy session,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, it was warm to the touch,
Sure.
so I think about things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I know from experience, now you're just like, is that something? Is that something? Should I be worried about
Yes.
that? Right. And you're just
Right.
like, it's a constant like question us cancer warriors have, because the reoccurrence is always that like underlining worry, right?
Right,
So after
exactly.
you went fully flat, did you have any other treatment? Did you?
I was doing chemotherapy,
Okay.
and from there, because the chemo wreaked havoc on my bones, I do bone infusions too,
Okay.
and also had to get braces because it broke down, the bone in my teeth, and my teeth started to spread.
Yeah.
Another thing that they don't tell you,
Yep.
which was not part of my treatment plan, by the way. So I had to pay out of pocket for that, which I thought was
Oh,
really unfair. And I'm like, well, my teeth didn't look like this before
right.
chemo. And, you could prove that by,
Sure. Look at my smile here. Look at it here.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
right.
I
So
started feeling that too. And like my lower teeth, I was like, God, I'm really glad that I'm almost done because my teeth started getting really painful. So yeah, I totally
yeah,
understand that.
yeah. So
How many rounds of chemo did you do?
I did, I think, 8 rounds of chemo.
Okay.
And now I am on a chemo hormone based pill every day,
Right.
which was supposed to be only a 5-year plan, but now has turned into a 10-year plan. So I'm not very happy about that.
Is that because of the mutation that you have?
I think it's a combination of things. First of all, I think it's because of the aggressiveness. And, like, I know some women do blood work every 3 months, some don't. My blood work always comes back kind of like
A little
iffy.
iffy.
And I always ask this question, like, am I cancer free? Like, am I in remission? Because I personally, I'm very confused because
Right.
I feel like as long as I have to do treatment because of this, I
Yeah.
am not cancer free.
Right.
But that's not how the doctors look at it.
Right.
But then I'm like, well, you have my tumor, so you already knew the grade and all of that. So how did we go from 5 years to now all of a sudden 10 years? Is there something that I'm not being told? Like, so now I'm questioning all these things because this is not
Right.
the plan that we initially talked about.
Right.
So it makes me think that, is there something going on that I'm not being told that it
Hmm.
will jump? Because to me,
Right.
that's dramatic. It's not like,
Absolutely.
okay, we'll
Double.
do like another year, that, okay.
Right. And
But to
what
now,
kind of side effects are you having? Because I know the hormone blockers are just, I mean, I haven't had
oh
to ever deal
gosh,
with that, but from what I'm hearing from women is that is almost harder than the active, like not that you're not in active treatment, but like the
yeah,
what people would consider active treatment, the surgeries, the chemo, radiation. Um, I would love to know because again, I don't do that because I was triple negative.
right. So I can't even put into words sometimes. There were times when I literally just wanted to give up. I just didn't want to do anything, and whatever my fate was, that was my fate. Because it was so hard. I mean, the bone pain by itself, trying to get up in the morning and I'm just in so much pain. Um, the hot flashes because it put me into menopause.
Right.
Um, and I should have said I actually wound up having to have a hysterectomy too, because I had a pap smear that came back abnormal. And, they were like, nope, we're not even about to take that chance. So, doing all this at 34, and
Yeah.
now I know I can never have children, and going through these hot flashes, the emotions,
Yeah.
and not having an outlet because not understanding, like, I wasn't explained that A, B, C, D may happen, and I'm going through all these changes, both physically, mentally, emotionally,
Yeah,
and my husband doesn't know how to help me.
sure. Because you
And
don't even know how to help yourself, right? I mean, it's
yeah,
like,
right.
right. It's like, I would love to tell you, but I just don't even know.
I mean, there were times I would just break out and just cry,
Yeah,
because I'm just in so much pain, or these hot flashes are so intense and you can't take anything because,
because, yeah,
when you have like a hormonal based cancer, you can't have hormones. They
right,
have to
right.
suppress it. So it's like, how do I navigate all this without being on a million different medications to try to combat these
Right.
side effects? It's
But the side,
crazy.
yeah, but you can't like, yeah, so you have the
Yeah,
side effects because they're pulling this from here, so they can't really fix this. You just gotta, yeah. I
yeah,
don't, I mean, I've heard many women just say, I can't anymore. I just can't live like this. And so I applaud you for, speaking just how hard it is. Is it a constant, or is it like, do you have ups and downs, or is it literally like every day?
so the neuropathy that I developed, whew, that is an everyday occurrence. Some days more than others, especially like over here, our weather, like when it gets really cold,
Mhm.
it does something. It
Yeah.
makes it sometimes impossible. My fingers and my hand will turn blue, and I don't have a lot of feeling, and then the pain. So, I'm on a narcotic for that, Lyrica, which they want me to take 3 times a day. Here's the
Wow.
thing, if I have to work in the morning, there's no way I can take that morning dose.
Right.
That's a narcotic. I have to drive. I have to be alert. I'm a chef. So, and that was another thing. I'm like, well, if we know that I have neuropathy in my hands and my arms,
How is that gonna?
why, why do you feel like it's okay for me to work
Yeah.
in that type of industry? And my doctor literally said to me, we'll find something different to do. And then I said, well, if you couldn't be a doctor because that's what you wanted to be your whole life,
Yeah.
how would that make you feel? It's kind of just like, oh, you're just gonna have to deal with it,
Yeah.
or find a different, profession.
Yeah. Have you considered getting a second opinion? Because it sounds like your doctor is just kind of very matter of fact, and
Yeah,
especially the fact that he did jump from 5 years to 10 years and really isn't explaining as to why.
yeah.
Um,
I actually am in the process of finding a new doctor
good.
just because I just have so many questions that I feel like I'm not getting answers to.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and I don't like
advocating,
that.
yeah, absolutely. Advocating for ourselves is the one of the biggest things I think that aside from hearing everybody's different, right? But like advocating, for stuff that doesn't seem right, and or
Yeah,
you have a gut feeling of just being like, no, like this is, I my doctor was similar. Like, I'm almost 50, but she was like, you're still young. Do you want your breasts? We can have a lumpectomy. I'm like, nope, take them. And she's like, are you sure? And I'm like, nope, take them. Like, I have
right.
no connection to my breasts. And she's like, okay. um, but to you know, really push for what you're needing and what you're wanting. I applaud you for trying to find someone new, because
Yeah,
that is really half the battle, is just feeling like you're being supported in a way that is humanely, you know, correct, so to
yeah,
speak. Like, I mean, I know that sounds really vague or easy to say, but talking to these women is like, no, really, there's like, you really have to, do your research on your doctors and your team to make sure that they have your best interest at heart. So,
yeah. And I just like to say it really makes things difficult when you're not believed,
right.
for having certain symptoms. So when I first started talking about like the numbness and the tingling that I was having like in my arms and my hands, that doctor said to me, well, if something like that was going to happen, it would have happened in X, Y, and Z amount of time. This was like maybe in a year after the final surgery. And I'm
Right.
like, and I understand that, but like you said, everyone is different. So you can't compare me to
Right.
the majority of, these cases. I'm telling you, this is what I'm experiencing. And it wasn't until they sent me to a neurologist to do a small fiber skin biopsy that it came back that I was indeed suffering from neuropathy. But I'm like, why did I have to go through all of that?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
I'm glad that I did,
Sure.
so that it's documented,
And it's
but
validating. It's like,
yeah,
okay, yeah, I'm not insane. And yeah, no, absolutely.
yeah. And I feel like that's a lot of the reasons why people don't talk about a lot of the symptoms that they have for fear of not being believed.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Or just feeling like even like you're saying too much, right? Like, oh, I have a lump here and I have a pain here and I'm feeling a little fullness here. And you're just like,
Yeah,
are they just rolling their eyes at you and just being like,
yeah,
you're going crazy, like you're going bananas?
yeah. Like you're a hypochondriac, but it's
Yeah.
just like, with cancer, the symptoms are so vague, like
Yeah.
pain. So if I develop a new pain, honestly, that's where my mind goes. I'm like, oh my God, is there something else going on? Or, is it really just pain?
Right. Absolutely. And we
And
always think the worst, right? Like it's
right.
like I'm dying.
It's
um,
sad, but it's the truth. And people that have never been through it, they don't know. And they look at you like you're just complaining to just complain, like pain is a part of life. I'm like, yeah, but when you have a cancer diagnosis, pain could also be an indicator.
right. Absolutely. And something you want to take serious because,
Right,
if it is something you want to catch it early.
right.
Um, but yeah, that's got it. Yeah. I always tell folks that if you have someone in your life that is going through a cancer journey, that they almost need you more after you're done. And I
Yes.
use that like done, because that's when the emotions and the thoughts really start taking over and the questions and the worry and just all that stuff. Not
Right,
that they don't need your support during like super active treatment, but I find the mental state after, you've checked all the boxes except for what you consider, you're still in treatment. I totally believe that. You're still taking chemo pills, you're still, your body is reacting to that. It's no different than you having chemo and losing your hair. It's a side effect, right? And
right.
so absolutely. So yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. And I look forward to hearing about you finding a new doctor and being heard because that's so important.
Yeah,
And I think that's important for anybody to hear. Like if you do have a gut feeling, please, find someone else because you very well may need it. You may find that someone else has a better, your better interest at heart and you're just a better fit. uh,
right,
because it is a very delicate situation, and if you're not feeling heard or whatnot, that's really not okay. Um, so, anyways, I feel like that's a really good validation to people. Like, just trust your gut. If
right,
like I was told to do chemo first and then surgery. And I was very adamant that I wanted surgery first. And because I fought for surgery first, my chemo regimen went in half because they found out that it hadn't gone to my lymph nodes. And had I done chemo first, I would have had to do 8 rounds and more aggressive. And
right.
then surgery. So it was just something that I just believed in. And I was grateful that, the doctors and the team that I had listened. I just wish that other women had that, you know, that team that just really like just listens and not only listens but hears you.
Right.
Because there is a difference. Well, let's talk about your warrior session in San Francisco. Let's talk some positivity here because
Yes.
that's where I met you. And, for the San Francisco Flatty Retreat, which was my first retreat. And it was so amazing to take the warrior session on the road for the first time, as well as providing this experience to people that aren't local to Oregon. So it was super exciting for me to bring it to there, and you were one of my amazing warriors. So what made you sign up? Were you nervous and like all that stuff?
Um, I really wasn't nervous at first. Once I got in the room, I was like, oh man, okay. But once you started talking to me, because I believe it was just you and I
Yeah,
at
at
that
that point.
time, and we had like over an hour to ourselves before the
Yeah,
next person came. And you just made me feel so calm and comfortable. And as you were just applying the makeup and we're just having general,
yeah,
conversations, laughing.
yeah,
And I was like, oh, this is like a girlfriend that, you know,
absolutely.
I just met.
Yeah,
And one of my biggest things is that I always want to be an inspiration to my girls. And I knew as soon as I saw them post about a warrior portrait, I was like, I got to do this. I'm kind of lying to myself. Actually, Cassie talked me into doing it. But
hey,
because I
well,
was
well,
kind of like on the fence. I was like,
yeah,
no.
no,
But she was like, no, you'll be great, do it. And I'm so happy that I did because once I saw the photos, like I can't even explain in words like how powerful they were. And not just because it's just me in the image, just the way that you presented everything and how you made things.
yeah.
All I did was just stand there in a
You did
stance.
not. You did not. You did all the heavy lifting. Honestly, like I try really hard. My biggest uh, thing that I want to focus on during these sessions is really just it's just having fun. We're just playing dress up, right?
Yeah.
And we're transforming ourselves into that alter ego that is inside of us, our saucer
Right.
as I like to like Beyonce and saucer that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm really glad. I don't normally do folks' makeup, but it was really great to be able to have that one-on-one time with you.
Yeah.
And I how was it doing the pictures, like just actually posing and having fun? Because I know it's really hard to, it's like such a different um, feeling, right? Especially if
Right.
as females, we're pretty, and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So you put on, makeup, and you have all this warrior stuff around you, and so I'm just curious how that, like, were you intimidated? Were you?
Actually, no. Like once you started like putting things on me and I'm like, yeah, let's do that and let's do that. Once I put the stuff on, I felt like the connection with the stuff and I felt myself
Trans
transforming into that
right.
warrior that I didn't know was in
Yeah,
there.
girl.
You know,
Yeah.
like like I knew I was fierce, but I'm
Right.
like, now I got these weapons in my hands and I'm like, oh man, that
Like
felt good.
don't mess with me, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, just the empowerment alone, because I can see the models really shift, right?
Yeah.
The first couple images, you're just like, I don't know what to do, and I'm like, girl, I want you to come at me,
Yeah.
because there's a difference between this and then like, the tension or whatever, even if it's a fist or you're holding something or whatnot, that tension. Um,
Right.
but you were a piece of cake. I mean, you were just, nailing it. I mean, you told me the night before you were working on your posing and all that
I
stuff.
was
So, I find it so fun. And what was your favorite image that came out of the session?
now that is a hard one because so many. But I would have to say my ultimate favorite was the
Yeah.
praying warrior.
Yes.
I love the phoenix too
Yeah.
because I feel like, you know, we all can relate to the phoenix, the rise of the phoenix.
Right.
But just very simple, simplistic. And all I did was prayer hands and look off to the side. And it was honestly the most beautiful picture. And my mom will say this to you. Um, that was the most beautiful picture she has ever seen of me. And it was just so
Oh,
simplistic. And yeah, when I showed her,
yeah.
she actually had tears in her eyes.
I think it just says it all. And I'll most likely be popping some of these pictures up in the video after we finish dubbing it all so people can see. Um, but yeah, there was definitely some specific images that came out of that weekend where I was like, this is something. And I submitted that image to a local print competition and won 2 awards with it. So
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, you did all the heavy lifting because it is you. It's ultimately your strength, your connection, your story. I just took the picture, right? I just captured it. And that's you. That's 100% you. And you're beautiful and strong. And I just really hope you know that. And you're my
Thank
friend
you.
now. So I just love
Yes.
it.
But I
I
have
mean,
to say,
I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't ask you to be my friend. You're just gonna be my friend. I'm just like saying that
yes.
right now.
But I have to say, you need to give yourself a lot more credit because I feel like if it were a different photographer, you're only going to get great pictures as good as your photographer directs you. And you were an amazing director
Great,
on,
great.
okay, I want you to come at me. Turn your head slightly. All right, look at me with your eyes. So it was like little things that I think you said that made the pictures pop as well.
Sure, sure. Well, and I think that the models would be able to do some of that stuff if they could see them, themselves, their reflection if they were in the mirror. I just see the reflection and I can, kind of be like, okay, you need to, because I feel like people would see that and just be like, okay, well, I know where the light's coming from, so I need your head or, whatnot. Um, but yeah, it's those images, they were spectacular. And I know the hardest part was me stepping away from my computer that weekend to enjoy the festivities because I was so enamored by all the images that were coming out of that day. It was pretty cool. So, well, I appreciate you being one of the warriors because you are one strong, independent, amazing lady. And I'm really glad that you had that experience and that it provided you with what exactly I try and achieve with every warrior session. So thank you for trusting me because I know it's a very vulnerable thing to do.
Yes,
It really is. It's very vulnerable. And it took me a while to even do myself for that very reason,
right,
but I will tell you when I did it, I was able to feel that what you guys feel, right? My husband took my pictures and I'm like, this is the first time as a photographer, I look at pictures differently. And usually I see an image and I'm like, okay, I need to like do this and do this. And I was like, dude, I could screen grab this and just post it right now because I think it's really cool.
right,
um, so I also feel like these sessions, we see ourselves differently because we are a character, right? We're a character that we do have internally, um, but we're not just wife, mom, chef.
right,
You are the strength that's within you. And that's just what I want to showcase to every woman, including myself, because ultimately these warrior sessions, when I'm saying them to you guys, I'm also have a mirror in front of me, right? And I'm like, it's got to come back to me and be like,
right,
okay, right, Danielle, this is something you need to say to yourself. So each of these sessions helps me just as much because it's a constant reminder that I need to turn it around on myself.
right.
Um, so yeah, that's really amazing. Well, I always love ending on a positive note. Not that a warrior session wasn't a positive note, but was there anything about your cancer diagnosis or afterwards that really um, was a more positive aspect in your life? Um, that only
If
became about because of the cancer that you were diagnosed with.
If I had to say anything, and this is going to sound really cliche, but the sisterhood that I have now with the Flat community has really, really, and I have other sisterhoods, and it's nothing against them, but it's different when
Hmm.
you have breast cancer and you're flat
Yeah,
versus just having breast cancer.
right.
There's a big difference. And I can't tell you how much happier I have been knowing that I have a community of women all across the world now, right? We're
Absolutely.
international
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Um, that I know will support me.
yeah,
If I have questions, I don't have to be afraid to ask them. Like it really is a safe space.
yeah.
Um, and I could just be my authentic self. And I love that because sometimes I feel like I can't be.
Hmm.
And it makes me like, I don't know, because sometimes
Yeah.
I could be a lot.
I think we all
um,
can at times, right?
yeah,
But yeah,
but
I totally understand what you're saying. Like that authentic, safe space, welcoming, um, a shoulder if we need it,
right,
whatever. If we said, guess what, we're having a really rough day, and you just left it at that, you would have hundreds of comments, right? And private
yes,
messages, and
right,
like, what can I do? How can I help you?
right.
Because we are all there at some point. And as cliche as it is, I 100% agree with you, my dear. And I really do feel like the flat community, the aesthetic flat closure community, is really special. We have a different connection, or
Yes,
a bonus connection, I should say.
yes,
And especially because that wasn't your first. I don't want to say your first option, but your first line of your journey. And
right.
so yeah, no, they're pretty amazing. So I would 100% agree with you. And you take that cliche all the way home, girlfriend. Awesome. Well, is there anything else you would like to say to the world before we go about our day?
One thing I would like to say is that um, always do your own research, be your own advocate, find a sisterhood or a family um, that can support you no matter what. A lot of times we hear people say, I'll be there for you, I'll be there for you. And I personally have uh, dealt with cancer ghosting from
Mm-hmm.
people I never thought would leave my life for
Isn't
whatever
that?
reasons.
It's very
It's
interesting.
crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
you get people in like reaching out that you haven't seen in years, and then you have people that were in your life consistently just kind of back away. It's
Yeah,
they say that, and it's really interesting to watch. Yeah.
yeah. So, and, you know, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid because, what do we say in the Flat community? You're never alone.
Absolutely.
And I love that. I love that. And they mean it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. Well, thank you so much, Kiki, for taking the time to sit and chat with me. Girl
Of
time. I
course.
just love it. Do you have any plans on in 2024?
Okay, so 2024. I'm gonna plan to go to Paris. I hope so for International Flat
Nice.
Day. We're gonna try to make that happen. And of course, get a couple more retreats under my belt. And we'll see. We'll see where
Yeah,
the journey is gonna take us in
I love it.
2024. I feel great about it though.
Yeah, that's great. Honestly, I look at my day as today, as long as I can lay my head down on my pillow and just be confident that I lived today to be the best Danielle version that I have today, then I'm okay with that, right? No matter what
Right.
tomorrow brings, what yesterday
Right.
was I proud enough, if even if that meant, just doing nothing, right? So
Absolutely.
awesome, my dear. Well, you are a beautiful gem, and I appreciate you in my life. And I look forward to chatting and giving you a big hug real soon.
Oh, I can't wait.
Thank you so much.
Thank